So when you retire, what tends to happen is your identity changes. To some degree, I don't necessarily agree with, but when someone exits something, it's almost like their identity is checked at the door. Like you don't get to take that with you for some reason. Welcome and good morning to Age and Stage, which is a podcast about regular people on their retirement pathway journey, wherever they may be on that. And today I have someone that I've known for a number of years now who has retired within the retirement pathway, if you like. So a big welcome to Paul Gunn. Welcome.
Thank you, Craig. Thanks for having me.
So, Paul, briefly, Paul has had a long and distinguished career, predominantly in beverages for 30 years with Coca-Cola, in some very senior positions, looking after some fairly major accounts, and then on to the disability services through the Endeavour Foundation. The information I sent out before we did the podcast, I asked a question around whether there may have been a period of life that if Paul had the opportunity, like to revisit. And I'd like to just share that at the start. So in Paul's words, turn the clock back to late 1981, early 82. I just finished playing my second and last year of eligibility for the under-19s at Essendon Football Club. I was doing the pre-season in an attempt to be included on Essendon's list of 50 players for that season, the 1982 season. On the last night of training before playing lists were finalised, there were 51 players, not 50. You guessed it, I was number 51. To this day, I still wonder whether there was anything I could have done during the pre-season to change the outcome. So I guess I'm curious to know, is that because you have had a successful and long career, has that been a bit of a driver for you? Has that been a bit of a burn within that has driven you?
No doubt it has. And I sit back and I think, is that a regret, or is it just when I revisit what happened in those days, could I have done something differently?
Yep.
And I think I've taken that approach into everything I've done in business since then. Is am I giving all of myself to whatever that endeavour is, and to make sure that I'm doing everything in my power to get the right outcome.
Yep. Okay. And so to describe your journey to this point, which is a whole host of components, whether it be business, career, family, sport, what would be some of the terms that you might use that would describe your journey to this point?
I think varied is one for me, and that's both, if I talk about my time at Coke, that's both from a geography point of view, from working in Melbourne to Perth to Brisbane. And I think the fact that I look back now and I think how lucky I am that I've got a family who supported me through those moves, because, when I think back about it, we picked up our grandkids we picked up our kids who were of course, my parents' grandkids, when they were 8 and 3 to move to Perth, and when they were 10 and 5 to move to Brisbane. So I think back now as a grandfather now, and I think, what would it be like if my daughter took our grandkids away from us at this stage, because that's about the same age they're at. So I think from my perspective, it's about a varied career where I was just trying to do the best I possibly could and get the most I could out of that. And I'm very lucky that I've had a family that supported me in that.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, yeah, well, I mean, it can happen so quickly, and yeah, I agree. We raised our children away from their grandparents, and that's a big thing. So now being a grandparent.
Yes.
So on to the retirement pathway. So when was that first on the horizon for you in terms of preparing for retirement?
I think preparing for retirement probably started back in my late 40s.
Yep.
So, we're probably talking 15 years ago now.
Yep.
I really paid no attention to superannuation or where I was financially at any stage until I engaged a financial advisor or financial planner to help me do that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I really started to focus in on the financial situation that I understood where we were. So if you fast track then to February last year, so Feb 2024, which was when I really started to then think about a date for retirement. And the challenge I faced was once I set that date, it couldn't come quick enough.
Yeah, right.
And it just so happened that due to a restructure at the organisation I was working on at that stage, that I probably got a little bit railroaded on a structural change that was introduced. That then my role was made redundant, so I finished up in July of 2024, which was probably 8 or 9 months earlier than I wanted to.
Yep.
But financially, it finished up about the same end date.
Yeah.
So, and then, I was lucky at that stage that, I had a house that I was just about to put on for sale. So, I spent a lot of time getting the house prepared. So it came on me quickly.
Yeah.
But, we're now 11 months down the track and it's been very enjoyable. I can recommend retirement.
So clearly, so it was something that you were, I guess, still working through how to manage that, getting to that point. But then there was another, there was another greater opportunity. There was a structural change, and so that's what delivered it.
It did, yeah. It brought it forward. The change at work brought it forward, so that, and then I'm thinking at that stage I was 62, difficulty in finding a job. While organisations aren't ageist, I think we all know when we get to that sort of age that finding a suitable role is very difficult.
Yeah. That's true. Yes, no one will ever admit to it, but it's there. Were there any experiences that you observe that perhaps helped frame what your retirement pathway was going to look like? Did you see others that trekked down that path that you thought, I wouldn't mind doing that, or there's no way I'm going to do that? Or
I think personally it was just it was more so about, as a family, understanding where we are financially.
Yep.
And whether we are in a position financially that I could retire.
Yep.
And in talking to friends, without getting into the specifics of where everybody is financially, it was only really when I engaged with the financial advisor that started to help us along the journey that I realised that we were in a reasonably strong position.
Yep.
That when things did happen in May, June, July of last year of 2024, that I was in a position where I could quite comfortably retire.
So that was probably that was the main metric for you, that being able to comfortably retire was a financial based thing. So it wasn't a year, by the time I turned this, I'm going to retire. Or...
No. It was a discussion that started back in February of 2024. It was, as I said earlier, it was brought forward. I think one other element that helped me make the ultimate decision was the fact that the challenge I went through when I left Coke and was looking for employment. So if we go back to the end of 2015, it was a 7 or 8 month project to get the job I got with CUB, where I only lasted 8 months. And then it was again a 7 or 8 month project to get the job I got at Endeavour Foundation. So, all of a sudden I'm now another 7 or 8 years older.
Yes.
When I went through that, and I realised the challenge in finding roles then. So that also sort of created the wish to retire at that stage.
Yeah.
I didn't want to put myself through that again.
Yeah. And so sort of similar sort of theme, but were there any aspects of your work that you think maybe prepared you for retirement, or did they help you settle within your mind?
I think I remember somebody saying to me not long after I started Endeavour Foundation, and for those that don't know, so Endeavour Foundation is a disability enterprise. We're Australia's largest employer of people with a disability. When I first started there, we had a brand launch or whatever, and I remember bringing one of my good friends from Coke to that function, and he said to me, "It's a little bit different than selling black sticky stuff to people, isn't it?" and I think the fact that I spent 6.5 years there, and really in a job where I did feel like I was making a difference in people's lives, I think that prepared me a little bit more, because I sort of felt like I'd done something good. Yep. And I'm not saying 30 years at Coke wasn't great, but I really felt like the 6.5 years at Endeavour Foundation was like the cherry on top sort of thing. I really loved the work.
Yes.
So I wasn't happy to leave, but the timing was right, and I felt like I'd sort of achieved everything I could in the time I'd been there.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And so, in terms of, because you mentioned when when retirements sort of first became a thing of interest to you. So, in regards to that, from that point on, did you start making decisions with that in mind, or was it much later in the process where you started, whether that be career-based decisions, financial decisions, but were they with an eye to the end game?
I'd probably suggest that some of the decisions that we'd made prior to my wife and I even thinking about retirement helped us along the way. Yep. So, as you well know, the fact that we decided to right-size our accommodation, so, move from the family home into an apartment, I think that sort of started me thinking along the lines of, well, what does retirement look like and when does it look like happening? Because ideally, in my mind, I wanted to get settled in the new accommodation before I finished work. Yep. It just so happened that the timing of what happened or what occurred meant that I reversed that, and it did lend itself to a much easier transition from the family home into our current accommodation.
Yeah. Okay. This podcast has been sponsored by Arditi. Arditi provide business coaching services, mentoring and strategy development. We focus particularly on small to medium-sized businesses and executives that might be struggling with the politics of business. We can help, we can provide some challenging questions that might assist you and help you find the answers that you need to attain growth for your business or individual growth. For more information, jump onto our website, arditi.com.au, and reach out. We'll be happy to help. So you've had senior roles with Endeavour and certainly with Coke, significant roles. So when you retire, what tends to happen is your identity changes, and to some degree, which I don't necessarily agree with, but when someone exits something, it's almost like their identity is checked at the door. Like you don't get to take that with you for some reason. So how did it change for you, and how'd you respond to that?
Yeah, I think what you're suggesting is right. In my position, I was lucky in that I had a house to prepare for sale.
Yep.
So it just meant
you had something that
I
you
had something to do.
Exactly. On.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think I would hate to think what it would be like if it was just Friday at 5 o'clock you walk out of work.
Yep.
On your last day.
Yep.
And Monday you wake up and you go, what the hell am I going to do now?
Yeah.
So I was lucky in that I had that, well, I've got a house that I need to get prepared for sale. It sales in 2 months or 3 months or whatever. So I just started at one end of the house and started cleaning.
Yep.
So I had a chore, I suppose a chore you could call it.
Yep.
I had a chore I needed to do.
Yeah.
So that made the transition for me a bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
As I said, I don't know what it would be like if I hadn't have had that responsibility.
Yeah.
As soon as I finished.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, the information you shared back on the and the bio, it looked like to me that you'd created a new position for yourself, being grandfatherhood. I haven't heard of that one before, but is that your new title? Like, is there business cards currently being printed, or
no business cards being printed? But as you know, being a grandparent, it's a fantastic time of your life, and when you're young enough to enjoy your grandkids, And so it does make it more exciting when you've got that extra time when somebody rings and says, "Oh, can you come over and look after the kids for half a day or something like that?" So that and I think what you do is you force yourself to get out and about a little bit more than you previously, because previously 8 till 5 you're at work, or Sunday 8 to 5 you're not at work, so you need to find other things to keep your mind and your body active.
Yeah. And with that in mind, did you or have you cultivated any skills, hobbies, interests that, maybe you started prior to getting to the retirement date or since?
I'm trying to get good at golf. That's not working. As you would well know.
Yeah, I have noticed.
Having joined me on the course a few times.
Yes.
I'm an avid reader. I at the moment I'm probably knocking over a book a week. So I'm at the library at Carindale every couple of weeks getting a book out.
Platinum status or something.
Something like that. It's just, I'm a cyclist, so I'm trying to ride more. I'm trying to cook a little bit more.
Yep.
My wife would probably argue that point with me. But it's just about finding things that you enjoy and making sure that you're devoting time to those.
Yep, that's true. So I've always, well, not always, but of recent times, I've been of the opinion that from the moment individuals finish school and start work, that they're actually on the retirement pathway. Many or most aren't aware of it at that point, because that's somewhere down the track. So it's not something that I need to worry about. And at different stages in their life, they'll discover it. And some, it might come to them before they're even ready. But if you were giving someone some advice that was finishing school, finishing their studies, whatever level that might be, and they're about to start work, and effectively my argument is then be on the retirement pathway, what would you what words of advice or suggestions would you provide in terms of them preparing for something like that?
Start planning now.
Yep.
And I think that's something that I didn't do, or we didn't do, my wife and I. Honestly, we were lucky that we had a seriously good superannuation package when I was at Coke.
Yep.
Which led us to be in the position we're in financially now. But I think it's start planning now. Don't wait.
Yeah.
And talk to people who are getting towards the retirement period.
Yes.
And engage with them and understand what they did.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, I didn't start really any planning until we were late 40s. And that was only because a colleague of mine at Coke, who had started his own financial advisory business, was engaging a lot of people at Coke that I respected. And I thought, well, if they're entrusting their finances to this gentleman, that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say that there's a few of my friends who have also engaged with this individual as well. So I think it's all about start planning early.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't change the plan over the period of time, because again, if you start, if you're starting work at 19 or 20 and you're retiring at 64, you've got a long time of being employed.
Yeah. And so is it safe to assume that if you were starting out again, you'd be planning pretty early?
Yes.
Yeah. I look back at because obviously we're very close in age, so similar things. And
I'm younger, folks.
Yeah, thank you very much. But I the access back in the early days of work, so the access to invest, there weren't many options there. There were insurance type policies, whole of life policies, I think they were called, and you'd pour money into that only, to find out that, you didn't get as much as you thought you were going to. So I think it's great that there are so many opportunities now to be able to start earlier. But yeah, when I look back, there just weren't a lot of options available for people like us back then. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and I think the real benefit we had was engaging an expert, engaging somebody who lives it day in, day out, who has I can't say responsibility, but has a view to the best performance they can provide for you financially is going to be great for you, but it's also going to then enable you to become an advocate for their work as well.
Yeah.
So, and there's so many, and as you said, there are so many different ways you can build your financial position nowadays than when we started, it was superannuation. That was really it.
Yeah.
It's all about how do you best use that income in your super to get the best result you possibly can.
Yeah. It's, I remember a number of years ago back now, I'd reconnected with an old schoolmate of mine, and he was at the time bemoaning how what a pain it was to have to keep sweeping his tennis court on his vast property, which I felt really sorry for him on. But I at the time I said, so have you made your money? So the money that you have, is that because of the money you've made from the business enterprise that you're in, or from what you've done with the money that you've made from the business enterprise that you're in? And he said, well, it's the latter, because I myself and others were lucky where we were introduced to a financial guy, made some good investments, and so we all succeeded and did well from that. And I mean, it's just it's another way, I suppose, of being able to be more aware, I guess, of what's around. But there certainly wasn't that much back in the day.
No, and you know, and I've got some friends that run their own business, and I shudder sometimes about where they're positioned financially because, you know, I never had the guts to start a business. You know, I've always been employed. So, you know, the superannuation was my nest egg. But what I've found is over 15 years, a person who's, as I said, is the expert in their field, subject matter expert, and they've done a fantastic job about turning what we had into what we have. And having us in a very comfortable position financially. That enable, you know, my wife has now decided that come the end of July, she's going to finish up now. You know, she's been working 3 days a week, but she's decided now that it's time for us to enjoy, you know, the fruits of our labour. Over 40 odd years of working.
And do you think that will make things easier or smoother with both of you being retired rather than just the one, or no difference at all?
I think it'll be different. It could be a challenge even. Because the other thing from our perspective is, you know, we've come out of a house where you've got lawns to mow, you've got a pool to maintain, and you've got all those sort of things to do. Now we're in an apartment where we have no lawns to mow and no pool to maintain. And I sometimes find myself sitting on the couch, you know, maybe reading a book at 2:00 in the afternoon thinking, I feel like I should be doing something. But why? You know, you've worked your whole life to get yourself into that position, but then there's a little bit of guilt sometimes about the fact that I'm not actually doing anything. I'm sitting on the couch, I'm reading a book, or I'm watching a Netflix show or something like that, and I'm thinking, well, should I be doing something more different?
So you wait to hear, you know, the click of the door to jump up and pretend that you've been doing something for the last hour or so.
Sometimes, yes.
That's okay. She may never hear this. So when I sent out the information to you on some questions, so I posed a thing around a song that so when I retired, many of my so-called friends and family assumed that because I'd sold my business and I had grey hair that I would naturally retire without ever having mentioned that word, but apparently that's how it went down. But my position was, well, no, I'm just going to be open to anything and see what happens. And so I was listening to a Colin Hay playlist, and on came this song, you know, Waiting for My Real Life to Begin. And so that's been my song. I have tried to play it on the guitar, and I have achieved it very poorly, I might add. So no one will ever get to hear that. But so what's yours?
And the lyrics have nothing to do with it. It's just the name of the song.
Right.
So it's and because I'm newly retired, so only been at this retirement caper for about 11 months. It's Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves.
Okay.
And simply because that's how I feel right now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm not waking up every morning going, oh, I've got to go to work.
Yes.
I'm a lot more relaxed than I think I've ever been.
Yeah, right.
In my life. So,
okay.
And, you live in Brisbane, so, the weather's a lot better than I probably wouldn't be walking on sunshine if I was in Melbourne.
No.
But it's just the way I feel right now.
Yep.
Is that I feel like, 40 odd years of work have led me to where I am now.
Yep.
And I'm now in a position where I can really enjoy it. And when I say enjoy it, I'm young enough to still enjoy it. I'm still mobile enough to travel, and one of the things that my wife and Donna and I are talking about now is, we want to do more travel.
Yeah.
Because who knows in 5 years' time whether we'll be fit enough to do that.
Yeah.
So let's make the most of everything we've done over 40 odd years of work to now enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah. And without feeling any guilt.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I half expected that you may have come up with "I did it my way." Anyway, thanks, Paul. Thanks for opening the window on a retirement pathway that has got to the point of retirement. So the purpose of the podcast has always been that hopefully someone might watch or hear this and be able to relate to that. So hopefully, if there's anyone listening or watching and you're interested in that, hopefully you get something from it. On another matter, if you are interested in finding out what other things it is that I do, you're welcome to access the Arditi website, which is arditi.com.au. Until next time, thank you. Goodbye.